as a family member that's raising a child or an adult who has autism, it is so important not to forget about yourself. Caregivers struggle in so many different ways, right? It could be that we worry, are we doing the right thing? Are we doing enough? How can I do more when I don't have any more money and I can't make that happen? That, we're having a hard time even making ends meet with our bills, but yet we have a loved one who needs a lot of ongoing support. And so if we forget about ourselves, how are we going to take care of the people who count upon us? Okay. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about some of the things that you can do as a caregiver to make your life a little less stressful and a little more meaningful. So in this episode, we're going to talk about something that is difficult to talk about. And it is a fear that pretty much all parents of children and adults with autism have. And that is the fear that you are going to you're going to leave this life before your son or your daughter. And the fear that what's going to happen with them, right? And we know that in most people, so most of the time, certainly not all the time, but most of the time, our children outlive us. That's just how life goes, right? The elderly normally will go before the youth. And so we can't, even though we think, oh, well, our son or our daughter has autism, that doesn't mean that they're not going to live to 100 years old. We don't know that. We have no idea. I've met some people that are smokers and drinkers, and they live long lives. So while, yes, those things are bad for your health, but yet we still meet people from time to time who you think, how did this person survive this long? They have all these vices, but yet they do. So the one thing that we want to make sure that we do is that while we are here, that we're not forgetting about ourselves. Because especially if your son, your daughter, your sister, your brother, whoever it is that you are helping to raise or to take care of, if their challenges are significant, maybe they are very frustrated with their inability to successfully communicate. And they're going to communicate. They're going to figure out a way to communicate. And sometimes that's through behavior. And it could be pretty aggressive behaviors. It could be just, I'm not listening to you behaviors, avoidance. But sometimes the lives of the caregivers are very challenging. And I want you to, if that's you and you have a son or daughter, maybe they're even older, but they're not potty trained, they can't verbally communicate with you, they don't have a job, they're kind of like with you all the time. There are resources out there. So if that is you, I definitely want you to contact, if you live in Florida, the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. There is a wait list on the waiver, but depending upon the needs of your loved one, you might be able to get pulled off of what's called the crisis list and receive services pretty quickly. So do not think that you have to live inside of this really challenging situation without support. I want you just to think about, if you were gone, who is going to be there for your son or daughter, sister, brother? Who's going to take care of them? Who's going to love them? Who's going to nurture them? Who's going to make sure that they're clean and that they get to work, or whatever the case may be? And so along with caring for them, you've got to care for yourself. You have to take time away, just like as if you were any parent, not just an autism parent, but any parent, right? That's what babysitters are for, because all of us need to get a break. We need to just get away and maybe pick up a book that's just like a nonsensical book. I don't know, some type of fantasy adventure or something, not necessarily a book that teaches you more about autism or more about behavior, but just to be able to capture a moment in time where you just breathe. I actually have a necklace that I wear quite often, and it's a circle, and on it, it says breathe. And it's because I need a reminder just to stop and breathe. And I'm sure that a lot of you guys that are listening to this, you can relate. And so it's really important. You want to make sure that as much as you can, that you're eating right, you're getting enough nutrients in your body to keep yourselves healthy. Exercise. Exercise is, I just think that exercise is, even as big a deal as they make it, still think it's underrated. And go for walks. That is something that if your kid is fairly mobile, you guys could do that together. Go for a walk. Put your headset on, listen to some music, get out of your own head for a while. But walking is amazing. It gets those endorphins flying, gets that blood and the oxygen just circulating through your body. And, keep a good fast pace if you can. But it's just a really good activity. And then, if you do it during the day, you're going to get some vitamin D from the sun. I mean, there's so many benefits to walking that really, even with osteoporosis, they tell you there's some really good research in regards, if you are somebody who's having, oncoming osteoporosis, there's really some really good research that tells us about bone density and walking and the improvement, of course, the heart muscle. Anyway, there's just tons of benefits to that. All right. So if you live with somebody who has fairly complex needs, a couple of the things that you should do from as early on as you can, learn how to communicate with them. So both you talking to them and them understanding you, and them being able to communicate with you. Sometimes that's verbal. Sometimes that's through pictures or through a device, right? An augmentative communication device, a recording device. There's all kinds of different ways. And if you don't know how to do that, if your child is in school, you want to talk to them, talk to the speech therapist there. If you have a private speech therapist, talk to them. Because like I said before, behavior is communication. And if we want to be able to help a person deal with the challenges that they face, I always tell, when I hear somebody will tell a story about a kid punching holes in the wall, and my knee-jerk reaction to that is happy people don't punch holes in walls, right? And so we want to be able to give people the skill set so that they can let us know what is bothering you, what's going on. So being able to communicate between the two of you. And yes, I know a lot of parents, you just know it, right? You just think in your head, I know what they want. So before they even have to request it, I just give it. I just know what they want, or they get it themselves. Sometimes it takes sabotaging situations a little bit, especially when they're young, because you want them to have to communicate with you. Because if they never have to communicate with you, because communication is hard. My son's speech therapist, when he was young, I was coddling him too much. And she kind of sat back and said to me, the hardest thing he's ever going to do is learn how to communicate. So she wanted me to just strengthen up a little bit, because I was in for the long haul. And I'm so glad that I listened to her suggestions. So I encourage you guys to do the same. Patient. You have to be patient. A lot of people do not learn on the same path at the same pace. I was actually at a meeting today with a student who has some fairly significant learning disabilities as part of their overall disability. And the school tried to say that the student's lack of progress was due to his cognitive ability. Well, that to me is irrelevant. In the law, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, it says that all students should make meaningful progress. So meaningful progress for your child is going to be a little different than the child next door or down the street, right? But that doesn't mean that if you throw their improvements or their performance, if you will, on a graph, that line should still be going up. If that line has flatlined, or worse yet, it's going down, that's a problem. And the problem is not in the child. The problem is on the intervention or the interventionists. So that's the kind of stuff you need to question. But at the same time, you do need to be patient, because not everybody is going to grow at the same pace. But everybody, when they're given the support that they need, they should be moving in a positive direction. Okay, so you want to be patient, but don't be a patsy, right? Don't just be, oh, I'm going to be patient. I'm going to sit around and I'm going to wait. So you can't do that either. So there is a little bit of an art in figuring out where you are in there, but just know that, when something really challenging comes along, you just think inside your head, this too shall pass, and we'll get to the other side and things will be a little bit better. Create a schedule and stick to it. Lots of people with autism tell us that the schedule really grounds them. And knowing, waking up in the morning and knowing what's going to be on the schedule that day, what they're going to get done, what they hope to accomplish, good stuff too, right? What they get to do is really important. So this is true for yourself as well. I know that as a caregiver, when I know what's happening from day to day, before I go to bed at night, so something that I use for myself, before I go to bed at night, I establish, I clean off my desk and I establish what I hope to accomplish the next day. And I have learned through trial and error that I don't make it a crazy list. It has to be something that's reasonable. And I feel so good at the end of the next day when that's done. And I sleep so much better. Because if you're like me, you're not a great sleeper. Because that is definitely something that I find in caregivers, right? We spend a lot of time worrying. And so I will tell you that some of the steps that I'm giving you now, they're going to help you sleep better. And a person who isn't sleeping good is going to be irritable. They're going to have a short fuse. They're going to have a really hard time coping when things go off the rails. And that's not going to be good for anybody. I can really honestly say anytime during my children's lives, they're 28 and 30 years old, anytime that I lost it and I ended up yelling, I grew to regret. And maybe that's because I have wonderful children, but it's just, and I always regretted it. And almost always it's because mom was impatient. Mom didn't get enough sleep. Mom's hungry, right? Mom didn't eat, something like that. So learn from my mistakes and stay a step ahead of those things so that you're not on the other side going, oh, gosh, I hated that. I didn't like that. And knowing mistakes are going to happen. So learning from those mistakes and having it so that it doesn't happen again, right? That's how we learn. We screw up, we do something, and then we're like, oh, nuts. Okay, that wasn't smart. And then coming back and figuring it out. But that schedule is really good. Schedule time for play. So this is both with your kids, right? You want to play with your kids because I don't know about you, but when I think back at my childhood, I do not think about the amount of hours that I sat at the dining room table doing my homework. That's like never pops into my head. But I remember days when, my dad used to get home at like around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and that truck would pull in and we'd be playing kickball in the street and he would come out and kick that ball and it would go flying down the street. That's what I remember. And that's the gold that we have when we're older. And don't leave it so that your kids don't have those memories. You want your kids to have those memories. And so I encourage you to spend time playing with them, acting like a goofball. When my kids were little, I would jump on the bed with them. So do it. Jump on the bed. If you don't have a trampoline, go jump on the bed, roll around on the floor, laugh and play and enjoy yourselves. And don't act your age. Act like a child every once in a while. It's good for your brain and your heart and your soul. Then there's also time for play when it's you and maybe another adult, maybe if it's your spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, and just be able to get out and enjoy yourself. And I encourage you to stretch yourself a little bit. Do something you've never done. Take that pottery class. Take a yoga class. Just something new. There's so many really cool things on Groupon. Oh my goodness. Like you can do all sorts of things. Get yourself a Groupon and go do something you've never done before. And you will see on the other side that might be a little fearful at the beginning, but you're going to feel so good on the other side. So I encourage you guys to do that as well. And, I want you guys to know that there is help. So the Autism Society of Florida has a couple monthly support groups. So we have one that runs the first Tuesday of every month. It's online. So if you go to autismfl.org, you will be able to see the link there. That is just a parent support group. So mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, anybody who's raising young children, adult children, you are welcome to come. It is not for providers. It is for caregivers. It is for you guys so that you could talk to each other, you could support each other. I know some of the greatest lessons in my life that I have learned to this point have been from other families who walked before in the shoes that I'm walking in before me. That's more valuable than any doctor or so-called specialist ever. So I encourage you to do that. We also have a military support group, and our military support group, you don't have to be active military, you can be, but you can also be retired, anything related to the different forces of military, because we recognize that military families have different dilemmas in their lives. You know, a lot of times it stems from having to move around a lot, which is challenging for anybody to do. But when you have to keep changing schools and having to retrain to school all over again, finding new doctors all over again, it's huge challenges. So we do recognize that you guys have some very unique things going on in your lives, some unique stressors. And so we have a support group for that. So I encourage you to reach out to one of our support groups, and just, you can always call us. No, our phone number is here below. It's on our website. You could call us. You can email us, info@autismfl.org. Go onto our website. There's a lot on that website. Kelly Bush handles our website. She does an incredible job. There's so much information on there. We have a fairly new board member who is just phenomenal when it comes to thinking about what adults with autism need. So that we have some information up there for adults with autism, but we realize we have a lot of stuff we still need to improve that on that page. So just know it's in the works. Okay, it's coming. And then we have something called No Limits Global, which is an online streamlining program with the most incredible speakers that I mean, if you went to a conference and you heard, well, actually, you could never go to a conference where you would hear all these people in one space. And I've been around a while, and they are truly, truly amazing. And so you definitely don't want to miss that. And if you just go to autismfl.org, you'll see the link there. And again, it's called No Limits Global, and there'll be new speakers that will go live each month. So it's not a one and done. It's going to be constantly growing and changing and improving. If you have topics or speakers that you think, wow, I wish they had this topic, just let us know. Reach out. Because again, there's going to be new speakers every month. All right. Well, I thank you guys for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon. If you liked this episode, I hope that you will share it with others that you know in your community and abroad in your area, and that you will follow us on social media. That is where we tend to post things. You can get on our email list also. If you go onto our website, autismfl.org, you'll be able to, there's a pop-up about getting onto our email list. You can join the email list, and that's where you'll get just one email a week of like hot tips. So the tip of the week. And we've had lots of people tell us that that was really very valuable to them. And it's really how you're going to hear about the variety of different programs that we offer. Most everything is free, different activities and different ways to engage, different ways to, like in February of 2024, we're going to be going to Tallahassee and for an Autism Day. So we hope that you guys will join us on the journey to hopefully make the lives of people with autism a little bit better and a lot more meaningful.